typical Ford Explorer with the common rear seat problem. The motors didn't go. It was the gear case. See that here the gear case has been removed on both sides. Basically, I just used the chisel to chop it away. And I've already cut away some of the bracket so that a motor can be installed with a coupling. I'll tell you about the motor and the coupling in a few minutes. Here on the left side is the shaft that has already been cut down. There is a shaft coupler which is going to be used to tie the motor together with the existing shaft. Now, originally, I was just going to rely on the set screws and the coupler, but then I decided to drill a hole in each shaft end. I don't know if you can see the hole in the video, and I'll then secure through the other hole in the shaft coupling. I'll install a cotter pin. Here are the actual motors, which I purchased from eBay. The one I have already cut the shaft down, and I've used the wiring connector from the old motor. On the other motor, there's still the original shaft. That shaft will have to be cut to length, and then I grind it down a little bit to fit the particular shaft coupling that I'm using. Here's the spade connector. You can see the spade connector is a small type. It's probably about 3/16, and it fits right into the connections of the motor. You can see the electrical connections are made for a smaller type spade connector. Now the next thing to be done here is to cut the passenger side, just like the driver's side has already been cut away. That'll leave enough space to fit the motor, and I still should be able to get the jack bracket and jack back in. Here you can see the modified motor. By the way, this motor is made in Korea, I believe, for some Korean vehicle. I forget which brand. Got it on eBay, but there are a lot of power seat motors out there that hopefully are a little bit sturdier, and especially have sturdier gear cases, so they won't tend to tear apart, as seems to happen with the Ford Explorer ones. You can see how I wired the connector from the old motor into the new motor. Pretty simplistic. The only thing you have to worry about is getting the up and down side of the two electrical terminals in the correct direction. Worst case, you have to switch the connectors, otherwise when you press up it'll fold down. Planned for the future, I'm going to put in an automatic reset circuit breaker, which if the seat gets jammed because there's something on it, hopefully the automatic reset circuit breaker will trip the circuit, provided I have the correct current rating, and it should trip the circuit before the gear case gets torn up or the motor burns out. So now I have everything covered. I'm going to proceed to cut the right side just like the left side. After that, I'll take my Dremel tool. Right now I'm using a 3-inch electric cutoff wheel, which I think is a lot easier to use than hacksaws. So both areas are cut. The shafts are cut down. Next step, a little bit of cleanup with the Dremel tool. Okay, now we're going to get the rough edges with this wheel. This is a heavy, coarse wheel. Then we'll follow by something a little bit finer to smooth things out. As you can see, the wheel is pretty much burned down to nothing. Now time for some finer tools to smooth cut edges. Now we have an abrasive drum, and this is going to smooth out the edges a little bit more. Last task for the cutoff wheel is to make the other motor shaft the same length and the same diameter as the one that I already did. So I have this handy little 12-volt power supply that will start the thing rotating. Here are the connectors, all clipped onto the power supply connector from the old motor. So I'm going to use these in a minute as soon as I tape them up. Connectors all taped up and inserted in the motor. I have a power supply here, so the motor is turning. And now I start the cutting. The power supply helps rotate the shaft for easier cutting. Let me get it into the position I need. Shaft is now rough cut to length. After I grind it down to the correct diameter, I'll finish up. So now you can see there's a cotter pin installed on each end of the shaft, the motor shaft and the seat mechanism shaft. I only used set screws to hold in place while I put the cotter pin in. So now I'm going to drill a hole for the cotter pin. A little oil to lubricate. First is a 3/32, then I'm going to follow with a 7/64. After drilling with the 7/64, you can see a cotter pin here. The cotter pin should go right in. So here's the motor and the trim installed. It looks like all the pieces are going to fit. And there they are. Seats up. Probably need a cleaning, but that will be a project for tomorrow.